Bark, bark, woof, woof, happy puppy here. Alrighty, so I apologize for the lack of uploads here onto YouTube, although I've been streaming so much often as I can on Twitch. There is an unfortunate reason behind that. Mainly being my laptop is unfortunately getting a bit older on me. The audio jack or the audio input for a microphone and stuff like that, headphones, has decided to stop. Just completely stop working. And I don't know if it's just because it's worn out or if something else has gone wrong. If I want to fix that, I would need then to take my laptop in. So temporarily, I'm using USB headset. I don't want to because this is the same kind of headset that you'd give a middle schooler, but it's working. So I can kind of, for right now, get back on track. I do apologize about my voice. I know I will probably sound a bit raspy. I've been going a good part of my day. So I went to, back in December, I went to Midwest Furfest. I went to, Midwest Furfest 2025. The theme of it was a villainous vacation. It was a lot of fun. Hands down, a lot of fun. And I'm sad it ended, though my paycheck is glad. There was a lot there. And I am already missing the people I've met. I'm already missing the good general vibes it had. I wrote down some notes from different panels I went down, that I went and saw. This is almost all completely off the cuff and off the script. There's no script per se. Just me and my notes. I'll be posting images on screen as I'm kind of yapping along here. If I have the presence of mind, I will also post I can't remember, the different panels, what their names were, stuff like that. So the first panel I attended was Thursday night. No, actually, no, we'll back up. So, for those who don't know, Midwest Furfest goes from, I believe, the 4th to the 8th. So that's a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, and Sunday, ending on Sunday. I did take Monday off to kind of recover. I did have a bit of a costume. If I remember to, I will post a still of that right here. Yes, that's what I went as. I've met so many people. I've interacted with so many people. I didn't do any interviews this time around. I probably should have, but I was kind of too distracted. So, Thursday, I go over there. I get there and the line I got there early, bear that in mind. And I got really lucky. I was able to get in line just to go get my badge fairly quick. Now, there's a couple different, they have like their sponsors, their shiny sponsors, and then their pre-registration, then general admissions. Now, I pre-registered, but the shiny sponsors and sponsors got to go in first to go pick up their badges and stuff like that. I didn't do that this year, or rather this last year, because the difference between it was like $200 to $300. Now, I could see myself paying that much more again this coming year, just because it made, waiting around for certain things a little bit better. Like I wouldn't have waited 45 minutes for like one thing, but not really necessary. But I could see its uses. And I'm not going to say, oh no, that's, a bad thing. They kind of rely on having those people sell out the sponsorship positions. It makes a world of difference for them. So I won't blame them. However, I think I got in there to pick up my badge about think badges were. They opened it actually a little bit early. I think it was supposed to be at 5 o'clock, but they opened it for pre-registration people about 4:30, and the line moved pretty quick, like surprisingly quick. By the time I would stop, or rather, by the time I would get my camera loaded up, get it, get the pictures going, or get it ready to take a picture, I would have to move again, and it would kind of be rinse and repeat. So I have some pictures, but not many of the general line. Now, that was Thursday night. Thursday was for picking up the badges. It was massive. They still had people picking up badges, I think, all the way up around 8 and 9 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock. And by that point, they were still, as I said, they were moving through pretty quick. So kudos to the people who were doing work and registrations. Like, that was quite good. I think I waited in line for about maybe 45 minutes for that time around. Then, if I was a sponsor, I probably would have had to wait about maybe 15, we'll say 15, 20 minutes. Not a big deal. So my panel, not my panel, the first panel I attended was a Windy City panel. And that was, if you're visiting Chicago as a if you're visiting Chicago as a non-native, or someone who's just coming from outside either outside the city, outside the state, outside the country, it was good kind of history and kind of, we'll say, quote unquote, trivia knowledge, but interesting nonetheless. And I don't remember what time that was. I never wrote down that time. So, Chicago, I think, started off as Fort Dearborn. It was established in 1847. As a city, it was established in 1847. The Chicago fire was believed to have been started by a kerosene lantern or lamp on a farm. I haven't really looked that up, even though it said I have a note here that says, look it up. I never did. 1919, there was the race riots. Again, this is stuff, if you're curious, look it up. Chicago has the Society for Human Rights, and it was one of the first to go for gay rights. Chicago also has a famous art institute. 1950, Chicago jazz was a really big thing, not just among jazz, but you heard it. It was a major sound of that time period. Chicago has 200 plus theaters. I don't understand that. No. The first skyscraper built was in Chicago on a brown brick style. Then we kind of moved on from like history to food a little bit. So Chicago pizza is pan and tavern style. Tavern style is more like a cracker, and pan is more of a can do deep dish. Chicago style dog. That is a hot dog bun, no ketchup, chunky tomato, and onions. By this point, because they're still quote-unquote setting up for a lot of the panels, there was no AV equipment. So there was, he's trying his best to be heard, and he had a bunch of slides, but he couldn't post any. So I would have probably a little bit more thorough notes made, but what can you do? The Hancock Tower has an observation deck and bar. I also have a note to look up something called the Bean. If I remember, I've seen the Bean before. It is just a giant silvery or rather mirrored shined steel or stainless steel bean. Literally. It's just a big giant bean. Alrighty, next page. I don't know how many notes I made or how many pages of notes. Oh, okay. So that was that one for visiting Chicago. I did attend one called Autism and the Furry Fandom, hosted by James's James. Now, I didn't write down his name. He probably did tell me, but I just either didn't catch it. He started with history, rather his personal history of going to cons as an autistic person, and has been doing it since like 2015. He's hosted panels about autism. This is one of the things where he does. He made it a point to make sure to keep things family friendly, allow people to join. Like it was, even though it was listed like 18 plus, it was more toned to, it's like, hey, that was for if we do touch on a subject, there's not going to be, more or less not going to be a surprise. So technically listed as 18 plus, but really is more meant for family orientated. It was just, just in case something came up or someone made a remark, it's like everybody's covered. He also allowed a lot of late people to keep, and people did keep coming in. And he divided his thing into 3 sections. First one was what draws autistic people. The second section is what are the issues autistic people face in the furry fandom. And section 3 is how can a furry fandom be more accepting. I forgot to turn off my phone. So we're going to start with most autistic people get along better with animals, which is, kind of true. You don't feel judgment from most animals, with maybe exception of the cat or a husky, maybe an occasional glance or judgmental glance from a corgi. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I've never had a corgi. I've had friends with huskies, and I can tell you they're one of the most judgmental dogs you're ever going to meet. They're lovely dogs, but they're judgmental. Then cons have become a safe place for most autistic people. So bring that back to section 1, what brings autistics to furry fandom. Furry fandom tends to provide structure. A lot of autistic people come to furry cons just to meet other autistic people. So feeling less alone, in other words. As he is going about this, there's a lot of other comments, and he was kind of opening things up to the floor. So I don't really have that much in the way of, per se notes, but I'll keep moving on here. Section 2, autistic people face a lot of hypersensitivity, a lot of crowd, a lot of noise, overstimulation, which, I don't want to say it's a giant party atmosphere, but I could see where that's coming from. How much overstimulation can an autistic person take? That will vary from person to person, case by case sort of thing. Autistic people can have a hard time facing groups or finding a group, which is true because you always kind of feel a little bit isolated because you're different from everybody else. But that's just one of the things. Someone mentioned social batteries running low after a short while. Finding trust. Finding a group of people without being a pest. Respecting boundaries. These are all things that kind of came up. I wish I had the chance to take better notes, but kind of riding in a rush on that one because there was a lot covered. Section 3, how can the furry community be more accepting? I mentioned having more open communication. And then he also mentioned finding the people who have been also fighting for the same kind of safe spaces. So, for example, If you are more of an activist, the trans and aces have also been fighting for similar safe spaces just to be themselves. Why not unite with them? Then that was, again, a real interesting conversation. If you see James at a panel or something that mentions autism in some sort of convention, I would highly recommend going. Even if you don't plan on saying anything, it's just a good chance to learn. Holy crap, I'm 15 minutes past and I'm still not done. That was just 2 panels. Now, the third panel that I went to, again, this is all Thursday. Introduction to Particle Accelerators. Uh, that was hosted by the FEMA Lab here in Illinois. That was a fascinating conversation. Now, I'm smart, but I didn't get half of it. But nonetheless, it was quite interesting. I do have some notes. Again, the presenter wasn't given any sort of AV equipment, so if he was kind of like, okay, I guess we're just going to do it in whatever way it worked. There was more. That room filled up pretty fast, too. Like, there was a lot of people there. He started, the presenter, he said he started in the main control room. Always in the main control room, there's always at least 2 people working 24/7. Their particle accelerator is over 40 years old and is described as always working, always needing upgrades. I mentioned the cyclotron, and there's one up in Canada. Essentially, from what he was talking about and the questions that were being asked and answered, that particular particle accelerator, that one in FEMA in Illinois, has never been turned off. It's always working. So they always have someone there around the clock. Always something going on. So it's basically almost has a life of its own. And it's just amazing. I think it's defined it as a cyclotron, and there's actually been more powerful accelerators made since it started. Now, it's what is Firma's. Let's see, Firma Lab is only a proton accelerator. What is the main goal? It's to continue to do science, understanding the laws of physics. The presenter there, he was amazing. You could tell this was one of the things he's absolutely loved. And I thank him for coming out to talk with us, because it was just amazing. And if they have another science-based one like that again next year, I'm going to that too. I'm just hoping they have the, AV equipment going, because then I could take better pictures. Midwest Furfest, so this was Saturday, the opening ceremony. Now, at this point, one of the things you're going to notice is change of quality. My camera, now bear in mind, I know I'm using a cheap digital camera. It has some good, things about it, but essentially my phone probably would have done it edges out my phone quality, since I'm not using a Samsung anymore. I'm using the OnePlus. The Samsung actually had probably better photo quality itself, but the digital camera does take somewhat better pictures. No, I bring that up because one of the things you're going to see is with my digital camera in the lower light conditions, it did not work as well. So the upcoming pictures are probably going to be that from my phone. So this whole year's theme was a villainous vacation. The first presenter was Nava, and I think he's a stand-up comedian, or he did a stand-up comedy routine. He touched on interactions with flying with a fursuit. Then there was a dance with fursuits, I think I mentioned. Oh no, there was a dance involving fursuits. Uh, Again, I was kind of scribbling this out kind of fast, so give me a moment. BCB Away was the next presenter, and he did sort of a mixture of villainous vacation places, like places you could supposedly use as hideouts. The next presenter was Fuzzy Fin, and he had a goose. Yeah, Fuzzy Fin had a goose with a knife. Fuzzy Fin. Oh, Fuzzy Fin is the new chairman. So last year, the previous one officially, I think he officially retired from his position. I think he's still involved, but as probably not as chairman anymore. Like not in the full capacity. I think he was still around the festival or the festival. Yeah, more floating around. But either way, so Fuzzy Fin is a new chairman. She mentioned about. She mentioned and talked about the staff and the teams. She mentioned Duncan, a founder of Midwest Furfest. Then BC Takeaway introduced Gimo. Gimo introduced Duncan, Eddie, done by Chevelle, Nasaga, Jacqueline Baldwin. I think these were guest speakers or highlighted guests. Then they also introduced the lead singer of I Made Too Much Pasta by Scarl Squirrel. BC Takeaway introduced Null, who was in charge of the Dealer's Den. This year they had planned to had, and this is true, I think, they had over 400 different sellers. Last year they had, last year they used the second floor for the Dealer's Den on the Rosemont Center, which was kind of a smaller space. And they moved it down to the first floor, which had a lot more space, and there was a lot more people. And actually, the congestion wasn't I don't want to say nowhere as near as bad as last year, but it was still pretty dense. Then BC Takeaway introduced the volunteer director. I didn't write down the name. Next was a skit involving music based off Disney's villain song, Be Prepared. And it was all about safety. The song was performed by Chester. BC introduced Enigma, who was the head of safety. BC Takeaway introduced Katza. Katza. I don't remember how they said it. Who does programming, over 400 panels with a team of 10. So they're AV people, the people in charge of setting up for the panels. I don't think they got a break. I don't think they got a break until all the panels officially stopped for the night. BC then introduced the charity of the year, which was MCP Chicago. I completely forgot to look them up and what they stand for, but essentially they help address the root of the problem for a lot of the overabundance of street dogs or street animals. So not just taking in the ones that they see on the street, but also, hey, someone's going homeless. Get them a little bit of money just to help prevent them from going homeless and therefore help keep their animal from going on the street. Or, maybe they just might be having a hard time affording pet food, so they'll help them get pet food. They do quite a lot. And I really should have remembered to, look them up. But if I remember, I will post a link in the description. Please do donate. I'm actually getting kind of teary-eyed thinking about the closing ceremony and how much everybody raised all together. No, I shouldn't be so teary-eyed over it, but I am. but that will be a little bit later on in this video. BSC introduced Dozer, who was a person in charge of accessibility services. So basically, you have someone who might be needing to use a walker or a wheelchair, or might be needing to use like one of those motorized not scooters, a motorized chair, that sort of thing, making sure people can actually, who may just might need that little bit of extra help, get that help. Then the last skit was a song about partying and the party rooms. I don't remember who performed it. So soon after, I think it was probably about 10, 11 o'clock, maybe, I think it went on to about 12:30-ish, somewhere around there. Again, I should have wrote down the times, but I didn't. Then there was, the next panel I went to, retail horror stories. Basically, group therapy for everyone who worked retail. First story that was talked about was finding someone found a card skimmer at a Safeway. Someone mentioned refrigerated items being left out and are being left out in a kind of a round instead of putting them back. Like, again, this wasn't just a panel. This was someone coming up to a mic talking about it for like 30 seconds. And everybody who's worked retail or worked something adjacent to it just kind of nodding, going, yeah, I've been there. I've seen that. As I said, felt more like group therapy. Then someone stole carts using a U-Haul because the carts were worth a lot more in scrap than anything else. We had a repair tech who called the cops on someone who found some very inappropriate things involving some underage, we'll say. Because this is going up on YouTube, I don't want to call it how it is, and I'm not monetized anyway, but I don't want that one coming back to bite me in the rear end. But essentially, found some special data involving some underage people on a computer. Yeah, that happened. So I told them about how often, I quick 30-second thing, more or less, like how our customers have seemingly the inability to read. I used to work in a gas station. I worked in grocery stores, so I have some retail, more than some retail experience. But I remember working in a gas station, and someone asked me, how heavy is this 10-pound bag of ice? And it says on the bag of ice, 10 pounds. 10-pound bag of ice. And he asked me, how heavy is this 10-pound bag of ice? While holding it. I asked him to repeat himself, and he would have the answer. Just stuff like that. I also talked about, I don't know if you guys heard that, but I felt that. I also, where I used to live, snowmobiling was a big thing. It wasn't just like, that was, what you did on the weekends. The snow used to be heavy enough to where some days, that's how you just had to get to work. You couldn't, shovel out your car, or you got snowed in on your driveway, so you had to take the snowmobile. And I mentioned about how there was a couple cute young ladies already giggling and having a great time at the furthest gas pump. This a gentleman comes roaring in, trying to impress these young ladies, and he ends up hitting the U-bar in front of the gas pumps. Those U-bars are meant to stop cars, so a snowmobile is nothing to them. Now, needless to say, he damages. I think he might have even. I don't think he totaled it per se, but he bent and wrecked a good front part of the snowmobile to the point where his buddies had to come get him. Now, of course, you already feel like an insignificant boob when you do something like that. But then when you look over and see two ladies who are now burst out laughing from their guts, laughing at you, well, congratulations. It's more or less has been confirmed that you are, in fact, an insignificant little boob who screwed up. And my involvement at this point is he starts walking towards the gas station so he can use the phone where I'm working and I'm laughing at behind the counter. I'm trying to hide so I don't, embarrass him any more than he already feels. I'll never forget that. Then another little story I added in, or kind of, we were all kind of cycling through. Some people, not every one of us got up, but again, same gas station. An elderly lady, we had this stop sign bolted into the asphalt. You ain't gonna move it. It's also, heavy concrete bottom. This lady, elderly lady, probably as old as my grandma now. So in other words, unfortunately, she's probably passed away. My grandma's alive, and I love her dearly. But point being, very elderly person driving a minivan hit that stop sign and then kept going. Now, you can't see this, but I'm holding up what is about an inch, we'll say about 2 inches of space between my fingertips. She left a scratch 2 inches wide down almost the entire length of her car and didn't notice, didn't hear it, didn't feel it, and she was driving. These people are on the roads and they scared the hell out of me. I use a bicycle to get everywhere. Then I think actually that's closing notes. Yeah, so that was Thursday and Friday. Saturday I didn't really go to any panels. It was a day I hit up the dealer's den. I was kind of just running around talking with people. As I said, I really didn't hit up any, panels or anything. I was just more or less just vibing with people. I went through a card game. I did a card game called Fun Employments. It's like Cards Against Humanity, but with job offers and you're trying to interview. Then I played a TTRPG called Iron Claw, and I was with some people. They were fantastic. I loved playing with them. Now, I used to play D&D, so I'm trying to branch out and learn other systems. Because let's face it, Wizards of the Coast, and by extension Hasbro, or let me rephrase it, Hasbro, and by extension of Wizards of the Coast, have been doing things poorly. They've completely not only mishandled the IP, but essentially they're trying to monetize their imagination. If you don't believe me, look it up on YouTube. You'll find plenty of scandals and just a whole thing. So I'm trying to branch out and learn other tabletop systems. And Lord and behold, Iron Claw. Now last year I wanted to go do it, but I kind of ran out of time. So this year I told myself I'm going to go. And that was a lot of fun. Now I didn't really, what's the word I'm looking for? Take any pictures of that because it's people sitting around a table rolling dice. You don't need pictures of that. But I've met some amazing people there, and I met a streamer, and I'm going to, once I open up my thing, I'm actually going to. I followed one. There's two. I know I followed one, but I don't remember if I followed the other. Okay. Oh, here we go. So one of them is. I'm not gonna try to pronounce that right now. I am tired. But Jinsoku Kitsune. So JINSOKUNE. underscore Kitsune, Kitsune. I've had the chance. I've met them in person. Hang on, I just hit. No, don't play. Thank you. I've met him in person. I've met one of the other people that I was streaming, that I believe they stream with commonly. I need to message him and say, hey, what was the screen name of the other person so I can follow them? They're absolutely fun to sit down and just listen to. And as he says, I'm a fox. Well, I'm going to say, I'm just a happy puppy. But that whole, another side tangent. Oh wow, it's been like 30 minutes and I'm still not done yapping about this. So this is going to be a long video. If I remember to, I'll put the Twitch link for them. Go follow them. You won't regret it. Now, I did Iron Claw. Then I also remember I hit the arcade. Like, they actually had a good run of arcade machines this year. One of them was a game that I swore I'd beat again if I ever had the chance to, and that was Carnival. If you ever get the chance to, it's a midway rail shooter using a light gun. It is fantastic. For its time, it was amazing. And as you know, it still breaks some common rules to this day too, which I'm happy to see. And I don't think they're ever going to have another rail shooter like that out there. But point being, they had everything, a little bit of everything. From something equivalent of Dance Dance Revolution to Beat Stick game. I don't remember the actual name of it, but it came over from Japan. There was a train conductor simulator, a Japanese train conductor simulator. Now, I should have jumped on that, but I just didn't have the mental capacity for it at that time. I was just kind of moving on through, just kind of looking and playing. Yes, I did beat Carnival, so that was fun. Now, that was Saturday. Sunday, we had the closing ceremony. Yeah, that was Friday, Saturday. I didn't really attend any more panels in between. Yeah, no, I didn't attend any more panels in between. So, the closing ceremony. The closing ceremony was something I'm not going to forget. Now, I did miss... I bundled that word together, but one name there was a name I did miss. Canine. I can't read that. I can't read my handwriting. But either way, so trade. I missed. This was mentioned: talent, socialization, parties, and trade. Performance by an electric violin player named Bagel Bunny was actually pretty good. Very good. Funzy Finn and Bartholomew, which is a name of the fake goose with a knife. Presenting people. Fuzzy Finn then talked about panels, gaming, Dealer's Den, the more 18 plus area of the Dealer's Den, how many people attended. The registration numbers for this year was 16,925 people came in to Midwest Furfest in 2025. I don't want to try to even imagine that number. And I was there. I was one of them. But either way, Fuzzy Fan then thank the staff for handling everything. Like all the people for registration, all the people who, kind of work behind the scenes, the volunteers. So they also did a bit of a breakdown. I'm not going to go through all of them, but 707 people were not from the United States, 44 different countries. Basically, everyone, there's one person from every major continent, and then there was one goose with a knife. Uh, then Duncan the Husky, in charge of transportation. Nero Bittergrim was also did a convention in Texas. Oh yeah, he was talking about 15 years with a Hyatt Regency, and then how they signed contracts for all the way up into 2030. Taylor introduced Tango, a vice chair for 20 years in charge of volunteers, and they had 112 volunteers this year, or rather this last year, nicknamed Gophers. Taylor then introduced Enigma, who was a head of medical emergencies and safety and crowd management. Then there was Tiller also introduced Farahu, in charge of video and audio and all the other events, and MF more or less. Tiller then introduced Belith, in charge of networking and the IT, and then tech with Cajun. Hardy is the head of publications, and then thanked Rama. So this is all closing ceremony. He thanks Silver and someone else, I didn't catch a name, 350 dealers and a dealer dens total. Now, I think that's not including, like more of the temporary things, but I don't think that's also including the art dealers. But I'm not 100% sure on that. 250 artists in Artist Alley. Okay, so I was right. So I know they booked 400, and they got 350. I'm also willing to bet there was probably a good number of those same artists also working dealers then, so there might have been some overlap there. Then Taylor introduced Milo performing "I'm Still Standing" by Elton John. In my notes, he said, in my notes, it's the Blue Husky. Taylor then introduced, Hug Monster. My handwriting is so bad. Hug Monster is an artist who showed a net of 94,000. Holy crap. I think I don't remember what exactly that is. I didn't write down enough context. Things were moving pretty quick. Taylor introduced the chair of the board, Big Nose, BIGNUSE, and then a Mao the Cheetah introduced charity. So that led into MFCP charity, and they broke it down. So it was 422 cents. Now this is starting with cash. 100 and no, cent card. I think I meant the right credit card. And then it was 1.139 billion cents. I think they just kind of wrote down some number. I think they counted it accurately, but then put it into some smaller numbers to make it look bigger. The Bimbos and Himbos then raised $1,183. Now, that was an interesting thing that happened. Unfortunately, I was gaming on the tabletop, so I didn't see that one, but they did a run through downtown, or run through the area outside to raise money. Then they did a poker night that raised $1,668. Now, the grand total at that point was $33,000. And then Fuzzy Finn and Cheetah got on stage, along with the mascot, which is the MF raccoon, and they handed over this giant check of. Try to see if I wrote down. Okay, I did write down the final figure. $110,000 to the charity, just like that. And I couldn't have been happier about that. That was really done. That was really good and really well done. Like, I'm choking up a little bit thinking about it and kind of remembering, you know? The money was donated to MCP Chicago. Again, I will leave a link in the description if I can remember. Go donate. But the total came out to be $1,000. There was a last call for donations, and I don't think. No, I did write down the number. So at that point, the donation was $143,000 donated, and then they made one last call for donations. And during that, they started handing out T-shirts, literally bags of buns, just buns you can eat, bread that was kind of just being thrown around for people. You know, just if you wanted a thing of bread, they were throwing it out there. As they were waiting for the final count, and everyone did the awoo thing. Finally, the last count was $151,571, and probably some odd cents. Fuzzy Finn announced the guest of honor for next year. I believe it was Beta Monkey, Zesty, a artist, Snuffles, a musician, and next year's theme is Bark to the Future. So overall, the whole experience was just something fantastic, and I look forward to going back again next year. I'm wondering who the organization that they're going to donate to, the charity. There was a couple other things that did happen, but those were more something that I'm going to just keep to myself because it wouldn't feel right to put them up on screen. But I did attend a dance, finally. Then I'll put up pictures of the dance. As I said, I miss Midwest Furfest. That was so much fun. I don't miss some of the waitings I had to do from waiting in line, but for anyone who might not be a furry or might not be part of the fandom but curious, I'd say bite the bullet. Don't get a one-day pass. Get the full-on 4-day pass. Get time off work and come. You won't be disappointed. There was a lot of good people there. There was a lot of very lovely costumes, a lot of very lovely fursuits. There was people hugging, there was dancing, not just, at the event itself, but in the halls or in some of the waiting areas. It was just fantastic. Normally, I would also do a swag video of all the stuff I picked up, but I'm not really going to do that this time around. I mostly just picked up some gifts, so nothing really anything for myself. Just some t-shirts and some stuff from a local, some of the vendors that were there. I did find myself picking up the Iron Claw tabletop RPG book, so that was, I'm not trying to quote unquote memorize it, but I am reading through it. And I'm just debating between my character. And I might even do a commission for it. I'm not 100%, but I'm debating between a goat person who is a soldier and, doesn't fully realize when they're being picked on. Just like a good-hearted person just on all around. and might not even know when they're being bullied, like that good-hearted, or between like or between the kind of person, a very sweet. This is the next character I was thinking about, and I'm debating between. I was debating between a person. I haven't picked out race for it yet, but essentially the sweetest, most loving little lady you could ever meet, but has enough trauma that were due to incidents has developed a secondary personality that goes from zero to death in under 30 seconds. So, when put into a very high stress or very dangerous situation, the secondary personality will take over. If something needs to die, it will be killed, it will be finished, and then when the main personality, the original personality takes over, it's not until like when they're like over a mile away. And as far as they're concerned, oh, they just took a nap. They haven't wondered about it. So, yeah. Wow, I've almost gone for an entire hour yapping on. But to summarize, this year I do have some plans coming up. I will be setting money aside I am going to redo my costume. So I got two things I needed right off the bat. I know I needed a new futon to sleep on because it was beginning to hurt my back. I finally got one coming in. I finally got one come in today. So one big major, I don't want to say major expense, but one expense down. Then I got new work boots. That's something I've been putting off, but I finally got them. Now, I got two more big expenses. The biggest is going to be a new laptop. And the one I'm looking at is probably about $800, and that's not on sale. A new laptop would mean I love my current one, don't get me wrong. It's been a fantastic workhorse for me. But with the port going, and I can notice now the fan's turning on more and more often, I'm just gonna, I know I'm sooner or later I'm going to have to do an upgrade for it, so I might as well do it now. So with that, I'll probably spend about $800 and get something with a good graphics card. I might see about doing a PNG avatar for my streams if I can figure a way to, because I'm going to have to run. I right now primarily stream from my PS5. Ideally, it is, and I got to tamper with checkout settings. If I can just throw up a PNG avatar onto the screen on PlayStation, then I'll go that route. If not, I'm going to need to find a way to kind of run everything through my laptop, so that way I can throw up a PNG avatar up onto the screen. I'm going to slowly try to make my way into using VTubing. Maybe not a full 3D model, but more of a PNG model, something like that. That's the ideal thing for the year. That's like my big major project. I have a good web camera already. If need be, I'll even order a phone if I have to. But for right now, it's getting the laptop, and then followed by I will be ordering a mask, because I found a really good production company, fursuit company, Fuzzbutt Fursuits. They work with, like, the masks that I'm planning on order will allow me to freaking see. Because the mask I'm throwing it up on screen right now. That sucker, I can't see through. I need glasses to see. I'm very short-sighted. And when I wear that, I basically need a seeing eye human or seeing eye person to follow and cling on to. Otherwise, I'm running into things. I'll have no depth perception. And again, I'm short-sighted, so things just look blurry. With their masks, they're gonna make it with glass. I think they make them with glasses in mind. So there's a very good chance that I will be able to see. And I can see through it. And I won't need to worry about running into a wall. So it is going to cost me a little bit. but I would rather have that. I've set money aside already for. I'm right now splitting the money two ways. First, $50 towards the mask, $50 towards computer. I'm probably going to likely spend around $300 on the mask. That's like paint and everything else. So that leaves $750 for the computer or for the laptop, and $250 for the mask. Little by little, I plan to chip away at this. But until then, I'm going to keep going as much as I can. I'm going to try to do a return to cocktails and mocktails. Midwest Furfest kind of threw me for a loop, and I never really picked back up on it. Too many things get kind of collided together at once. So, yeah, that's it. That's the end of housekeeping. I'm still working at where I do as a full-time job. I wish I had more time, but I don't. So my streaming is going to be continuing to be kind of varied. I'm still going to try to stick to Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so I can get 4 times in a week. My streams are still probably going to be about an hour long, maybe an hour and a half, maybe even up to 2 hours, depending on what's going on. For right now, I'm still looking at mostly doing Warframe. I have been planning out and branching out to do a couple other games. Some multiplayer, some single player. I have a Minecraft Forever world started. I just haven't got to the point where I'm happy showing it off yet, because to me it feels very bare bones, but it's a start, like anything else. I gotta double check on Time Splitters. I have that downloaded. I have, I think, the full series downloaded, but I don't know if I can stream them. I think there might be one of them where it is you can only stream it, and you can't stream and stream the stream at the same time on PlayStation. So there is that. No, I can't stream and broadcast it at the same time, I should say. So I do have things in the works in the background. It's just getting to them. I do have a video essay I am planning on releasing. I probably won't be doing that for a little while yet. I have commissioned a thumbnail for it. I have the title picked out. I have the script written. I know I need to do editing on the script. It feels like it's ready. Everything feels like it's ready. I'll just need a thumbnail. So look forward to that. And just a little hint about that does pertain to Warframe. And that pertains to a villain that we all know and hate a lot. But at least he's inept. That should give you a whole... The guy's dressed like a chew toy to me. I'm sorry. His fashion sense is just terrible. I'd kill him alone just for that. That's a whole another side tangent. Alrighty, well, oh God, it's been almost 60 minutes. So, I could try to pad this out for another minute so I can hit the 60-minute mark and make YouTube semi-happy with me. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Like, subscribe, share, ring the bell, hit the notifications, do that hype button thing, whatever the hell that does. Reminds me of another thing of housekeeping. I am going to try to clean up how I speak a little bit when I'm streaming. So I probably won't be swearing as much. I'm going to try to tone that down. My goal isn't exactly to become more family friendly, but to do it so if, let's say, for example, I get invited to a Minecraft server filled with people who actually record, I'm not getting them in trouble, and I'm not getting myself in trouble. So I'd rather set these healthy habits now, while I still can. But good news is I had about 25 people subscribed following on Twitch. And I hope that continues on. So I will see you all around. This is Happy Puppy, signing off. Bark, bark, woof, woof. Bye, bye.